Hey everybody, welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy, your weekly video game news talk show, broadcasting live Fridays 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host Lex, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Booj, are we a talk show now? Is that what we are?
We've always been a talk show. I've just never introduced it that way because, I don't know. You know how sometimes when you're running through a thing you said a million times, your brain just lags behind and then you have to improvise? So it's one of those moments. So we've got a whole bunch of news to talk about this week, and we're going to try and get through it in less than an hour, which isn't going to happen, but we're going to try as hard as we can. The stories this week include such things as bad sales numbers for Nintendo, first time in a while that's happened, followed by first look at a game we're super excited for, hooray! Followed by the ongoing saga of Europe versus the video game industry, which we've talked about like every week for the past month. And it's a new story, too. Every time it's a new story. Followed by the United States against the video game industry in a shocking twist.
Everyone's against the video game industry.
Yes. What will they ever do with their billions of dollars in microtransactions? After that, we're going to talk a little bit about Blizzard hiring, followed by some news about CD Projekt Red and Remedy Entertainment. And finally, we're going to be talking a little bit about some PUBG arrests. And then we're going to close out the show by talking about games that just came out and games that are about to come out. So
you should have said some arresting news about PUBG.
Oh, that would have been so good. Dang. Man, you know, it always...
Let's start the show over. Let's start over.
Yeah, what I always think about is, like, should I actually, like, write out the intro for the lineup before I say it? Because I feel like I could come up with really good stuff, and it wouldn't take that long to write. Like, maybe I should do that. I don't know.
We could try it, see if it feels good.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about Nintendo Labo. Labo.
I think it's Labo.
I think it is Labo. So... Labo came out last week before, in recent history. And people were excited about it because it looked great. It was the week before last, because it was the week you weren't here. Davis and I did a big story on it. And man, it sounded like a really cool idea, even though it was seemingly weird. And, I mean, that's kind of Nintendo in a nutshell. But... But it still remained to be seen how well it would sell, and now we have some data on that, and it is not looking particularly good. So, reported by DualShockers via statistics revealed by Media Create, the Nintendo Labo kits only managed to sell 30% of its initial shipment in Japan. And that's especially troubling because Japan, like, fucking eats Nintendo shit for breakfast. They love it. If Nintendo re-released cereal, the Japanese would eat it in greater volumes than Americans.
Didn't they do that actually recently?
Oh, I don't know if they maybe they did re-release cereal. I know that they did back in the day. I feel like we talked about that. Maybe
they came out with Mario Odyssey cereal when that game came out. So I'm sure the Japanese were eating it up quite literally.
So yeah, usually. What we see in Japan is if it's a Japanese company like Nintendo or Sony, the Japanese are more likely to buy that product and buy it in greater volume. And because the Switch has been so massively popular everywhere, it has been even more massively popular in Japan. So Japan is like the market where it is assumed that the Labo would have sold the best, right? Yeah. So the fact that it only sold 30% of its initial shipment, especially for like the Switch, which everyone wants a Switch, is troubling.
It is, but this is also, I mean, even for Nintendo, this is a fucking out there proposition.
No, that's true.
Product.
I think that's totally reasonable, and that's what I think everybody was saying about that before it launched. But then the reviews were so positive that I was like, oh, I mean, maybe it may be the success of the Switch. It can just ride that wave.
It can literally sell you cardboard. Apparently not, though. This is... I wouldn't call it surprising, but it is definitely a divot in the recent Nintendo armor that they've built up with Switch and even with mobile sales of stuff over the past few years. But I can't imagine that if Nintendo flops on this, I can't imagine that it would cost them that much money. I mean, it's cardboard, literally.
And the actual games that come with it are supposed to be very simple. So
Yeah.
they couldn't have possibly spent a huge amount of money developing them.
Right. This is probably a calculated risk. Well, they're like, even they're probably like, well, we're going to sell cardboard. If we don't sell, it's okay. Like, we're not, it's not like the Wii U or something where it had a potential to tank them. So, yeah, it is interesting, but not surprising. This will be, I'm interested to see in 10, 20 years, or even longer when, like, this is remembered as one of those weird Nintendo things and people collect, like, old Nintendo Labo kits and sell them on eBay for exorbitant amounts of money. That'll be fun to see that.
Oh, yeah, that'll be interesting. And to see people make, like, because with I think we reported on this when they first started talking about Labo, and I believe this is true, although I don't actually know for sure, is the idea that the actual, like, schematics for the cardboard stuff, if you've bought it, you can, like, download those in case your cardboard gets all messed up and you need replacement cardboard. But that I find interesting because then for the collector 20 years down the road, we could see people do YouTube videos about, like, retro review, and some guy's like, well, I got the software and then I just got the scan of the cardboard layout, so I didn't have to worry about getting the old cardboard that is completely unusable now because it's 20 years after the release of the thing.
Right. All the cardboard yellowed.
The worst.
I mean, like, in 20 years time maybe everyone will just have, like, replicators in their house anyway, so it's just,
we'll all have 3D printers, I think.
Right.
Or we'll all just live in cyberspace and then it won't matter.
Right, or we'll all be dead because nuclear war.
Yep, that could happen.
And we won't care about toy companies making cardboard.
So, also, in that story, we have a little bit of an idea of how well it sold in the UK. So we have the game charts revealed in the UK, and it revealed that God of War has managed to hold on to its overwhelming debut from the previous week. While both the Nintendo Labo kits debuted at overwhelming positions, the sales for God of War dipped a mere 35% in its second week, which means that the highly anticipated PS4 exclusive is maintaining the initial fervor it generated on release. The Nintendo Labo Toy-Con Variety Kit, which is the variety one that costs less, debuted at third place on the chart, whereas the Robot Kit had to settle for 12th place.
Sorry, 20th place.
Oh no, it's even worse.
Yes.
So yeah, there's no way that the fact that you have the game that was already ahead of them is maintaining really good sales, which is not surprising considering it's Dad of Boy. So
it's Dad of Boy. Dad of Boy in snow. There was one story I was going to put in here, but we already had so many. Is that God of War is actually the fastest selling Sony exclusive ever. It is selling extremely well, and people seem to really like Dad of Boy with the Thor axe. Not thorax, the Thor axe.
Yep.
Where you throw it. Seems really cool.
Nice. So,
I'm sure there's a thorax in there, too.
Well, probably. I mean...
Bugs.
Bugs.
I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a fucking wacky day.
Don't know anything about Norse mythology. Shame on you.
No. But I do know about the Wild West, Lex.
Oh my gosh, the American mythos.
The American mythos, or the end of it. So probably some of the bigger news this week was that Rockstar decided to drop a new trailer for Red Dead Redemption 2, which is their highly anticipated big game that's going to be coming out in October of this year. And it looks really fucking cool. No surprise there, I don't think. I mean, it's Rockstar, so of course their games always look pretty amazing. The trailer was, it was all right. Didn't really show any gameplay necessarily. It was just kind of a tone trailer. It did show that John Marston is in the game, although a younger version of him. This is a prequel where you're playing a part of Dutch's gang is still around, and you're playing kind of the second in command of Dutch's gang, and all that. And then along with the trailer, IGN got an exclusive look at the game and a preview, and they spilled the beans about some of the gameplay mechanics, what the game actually is about, and how it actually plays. And for the most part, it's kind of by the books. Like it sounds like talking. It sounds the way that anyone talks about open world games, where the developers are like, we want it to be more alive, and like the NPCs actually have routines that they follow, and they don't just exist. Like the world exists when you're not there, and it's an alive, breathing world, and we want to have consequences, and we want you to be able to interact with the world more robustly and all this stuff. And the run of the mill open world talk when people say this shit. And usually when people start saying that shit, I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever. I'm still going to be able to find like goofy shit in this game no matter what. But when it's Rockstar, I tend to listen a little bit more closely because they have the resources and the money and the talent to actually make some of these things, come to life. And they've shown it back both with like Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption before it, that they do come through with some really pretty amazing stuff in terms of making open worlds feel real and living. So I'm sure that they've taken it seems like they've taken a lot of the lessons learned, especially from GTA 5, and moving forward with them. So a couple things. There's no multiple characters like there were in GTA 5. You're playing one person. You do kind of run a gang, and you have to sort of make sure that they're fed and that they have money and stuff like this, or they'll get pissed at you. Apparently your horse is a big deal, and you got to take care of your horse and build a bond with it. Your horse can perma-die. Yes, and it's not. And one thing that I actually thought was an interesting kind of hardcore maneuver is that apparently you can't your horse isn't magical. You can't press the whistle button and they just show up behind you like in so many games. Depending on how good your bond is how far the horse will be able to hear your whistle. And if you get lost from your horse, then your horse might run away. And you have to start building a bond with a new horse. And they're even talking about how like somebody's horse got shot and was bleeding out. And like the guy had to run to town to find bandages, and by the time he came back, the horse was dead, and it was really sad. And yeah, so you got to make friends with a horse in this game. It's not boy of dad, it's man of horse. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that looks interesting about it. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a fucking great game because it's Rockstar, and they make good games pretty much without exception. Oh, actually, there was one thing that I thought was interesting, is that apparently this game took so many resources and took so much, because they've been working on it for, I think they said 8 years now. It took so many resources, so much manpower, that they actually had to change the way that they brand their studios. So this game, Red Dead Redemption 1, was made by Rockstar Santa Cruz? No, Rockstar San Diego is the one. Was made by that studio. That studio had a couple hundred people, and then, obviously they have support in different ways from all the other studios that Rockstar own. But this game, they actually had to get every studio working on it, and they actually changed the branding, so it's no longer like Rockstar North or Rockstar San Diego. It's just Rockstar Productions. Which I thought was interesting, that even Rockstar, as big of a company that they are, had to actually pool the resources of their entire fucking company to get this game going. Interesting stuff. And yeah, I'm super fucking excited for it. And I'm probably going to have to buy a goddamn console to play this game. Which I'm angry at, but I want the game that bad, I think.
You don't think it'll eventually be released on PC so they can get that extra cheddar?
Probably. I mean, the first one wasn't released on PC. But I mean, I think they've seen how hugely successful Grand Theft Auto 5 is on PC, so I think they'll
just keep buying it.
Right? I know, yeah. It's the game that never stops selling. Yeah, I probably will, but I don't want to wait like a year or whatever.
Yeah, that would be the big problem. You'd probably have to wait a while because there's no way they would do simultaneous release.
No. They're like one of the only companies that does that besides like Nintendo. It pisses me off so much.
I have been scrolling through these screenshots, and my goodness, I mean, I knew this game was really pretty, but man, it's really pretty.
Yeah, it looks really pretty.
It's really pretty on all the different levels because it's got beautiful weather and clouds. Those pink sunset clouds. Ooh, so nice.
Yes.
But then you see those close-ups of people's faces, and you're like, oh my god, that face looks like a face. Yeah. And then you see like a 2-shot inside with a bunch of dramatic lighting and stuff. I'm like, oh, looks like cinema. So
looks like a cinema.
So there's not a bad angle to look at this game from.
Yeah. I think I'm sure this is still made in Rage, I think is what they call it, the Rockstar Games Engine. Probably a new version of it. It's all proprietary. Yeah, I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 looked good when it came out. Oh, interestingly enough about these graphics is that they did say that all the stuff that was taken was from a baseline PS4. So this wasn't even like a PS4 Pro or a PC build or anything. So pretty damn impressive for this late in the console lifecycle, I think.
And this is why consoles take so long to have new ones made.
Yes, yeah. Because the longevity just grows and grows.
Yeah, they just made, man, because when they made that PS4 and that Xbone, they made extremely powerful machines that can. It's hard to reach the ceilings of them. If only
it's almost like they're powerful PCs almost.
Yeah, if only the console manufacturers had just made shoddier devices.
Yeah, seriously, then we can get more. We'd spend more on more new consoles. Yeah, super excited for this game. Interesting. One thing that someone brought up, I think, in one of these IGN articles, is that this is the first Rockstar game in 5 years. It's been a while, and I was like, that's true. Even though you hear about Grand Theft Auto 5 all the fucking time, it came out 5 fucking years ago. So, you know, ready to see more of their special sauce, because they do have a special sauce to their games, a special kind of magic that they are really only able to achieve.
Totally. So,
just like in Norway.
Just like it, I don't know. That was a terrible, terrible transition. But yeah, let's talk about Norway.
I'm gonna just work on my horrible segues. That's all I'm gonna do.
Okay, so Norway files formal complaint against Sony, Nintendo, and Valve for breach of EU consumer law. And hold on to your knickers. This isn't about loot boxes. It's actually about something much more simple. That is just a thing that I kind of already thought was a thing, but I guess it wasn't, and I was surprised. But apparently, if you pre-order a game, you can't just be like, I decide not to pre-order this, and cancel your pre-order. I just didn't know, because I never pre-order anything, because pre-ordering games is a bad idea, never do that. And not because you can't return them, but because you have no idea if the game is good or not, and you won't. Right. And returning it before it comes out doesn't answer that question. So, right. I just always assumed you could return, you could like cancel a pre-order, but apparently you cannot. And in Norway, they're basically like, hey, wait, but the European Union's consumer law says that you should be able to return things that you've pre-ordered. I forget what it specifically is called. It's there's a policy. Right of withdrawal, I believe, is what is what it is referred to as. So they were basically saying like, hey, all you game companies that don't allow people to withdraw from pre-orders, well, we say that's illegal, so you have to sort of change that within, I believe they said, the next 30 days, or they will pursue legal action.
Yeah.
So let's see here. There's some powerful quotes from a man whose name I can hardly pronounce. Digital products and services such as digital games for PCs and consoles do not exist in a lawless vacuum, said Finn Lutzov Holm Mirstrad.
Ooh, pretty good. Before you were about to say that, I was going to be like, good luck and Godspeed.
The NCC's head of digital services. Big gaming providers selling their products online are some of the world's largest entertainment companies. They have to observe laws and rules and honor consumer rights just like everyone else. So this
is... You go get them, Finn.
No, yeah, that's a really good point, because we talk about all the time how the video game industry has eclipsed like every other entertainment industry. They make so much money, just piles of money, that the fact that they can skirt around laws that the other smaller entertainment industries don't get to skirt around is super unfair. So I'm glad that Finn is taking it to him. He's
Go Lutzow home. He's taking him home.
No, no.
That's shit. No, this is good. This is good. Good on them. Because it'll never this kind of regulation, even if it is just a chest beating or not, it's something that'll never happen in America. So good on Norway, Scandinavia, trying to do something about this. And I do think, like you said, there are just the video game industry just doesn't have a lot of regulations at all. because it's new. It's relatively young, and it exploded really fast. And everyone's just riding that money rocket all the way to Money Town. Like, it's just, and no one stopped to say, hey, maybe some of the stuff we're doing is a little, skeezy, or maybe it's a little amoral or something like that. And I think it's just now we're getting to the point where we're able to slow down enough, and people are saying, okay, now let's stop and look at some of these practices you've been doing. Maybe they're not super great. Maybe they're not very consumer forward. And also because I think I don't know if this is true anymore, but there's a large portion of the video game industry's consumers are young people, very young people. Of course, it's pretty much universal at this point that, the demographic, I think, is pretty universal, but there's always been a pretty large young contingent, and young people are not ones to necessarily stop and think about their consumer rights, because they just want to play Fortnite. They just want to buy another card pack. They don't really want to, think about how even small things like this might impact their rights as consumers. So these things should be looked at with a more careful eye.
Totally. And I withdraw a statement that I made earlier that said that the companies had 30 days to comply. That's actually from a different story we're going to get to in a minute. I was just mixing up my facts. But the day number I was thinking of is that apparently, according to the EU's laws, customers are supposed to have a 14-day window following any purchase to change their minds and receive a refund or return. Refund or return. So the... let's see. So yeah, I don't know exactly how they're moving forward against these companies. They're basically just saying like, hey, this is the law, so you need to abide by it.
Yeah. It's that's the saddest thing about all this is that legislature takes a long time. Anything that's kind of this huge litigious nature is, it's going to be to make a change even so small as that. Like, this is really not that. It's cool that they're pursuing this, but it's not even like, I don't think it's even as big as like the loot box stuff that some other countries are trying to tackle. But unfortunately, these changes just will take years and years to actually turn into law. So,
well, that's the thing, right?
Happen or not,
they filed the formal complaint, but what I assume is going to happen is that either Valve, Sony, Nintendo, or EA, because it's against all of them, because none of them abide by this policy, are probably going to sue. Because they want to break the laws established by the European Union, just because they don't want to lose that money. They don't want people getting refunds. So they're probably going to sue, and then it's going to be tied up in legal litigation for who knows how long. Because it's not like none of these companies ain't got no money. They got plenty of money for lawyers. Valve has money for lawyers for days, and by days I mean years, because that's literally how long they have money for them for. So they, I assume that this is probably something, if you're in the EU, I'm sorry, you're probably still not going to be able to get that refund for a pretty long period of time.
Yeah. In the meantime, just don't pre-order games, like Lex said, because there's no reason to. And especially if you're in Europe, you probably have a good internet connection. Don't buy digital. Just buy digital games.
Yeah, you do have a good internet connection if you're in Europe. Man.
Yeah, I think actually Norway particularly has like an incredibly good internet nationwide. If I remember correctly, it was in either Norway or Finland. But yeah, just don't buy physical copies. Just get a good hard drive and download your games, so you can get them literally an hour after it releases, and they'll never run out of copies, and you don't have to stand in line, and you don't have to deal with people. Although if you live in Norway, maybe you like dealing with people because you're like a socialist, I guess. I don't know.
Being a socialist means you like to be social, right? That's what that means.
Yes, that's what it means. It's a it's a cultural state of mind, not a political state.
Yeah, duh. Speaking of socialism, what country hates socialism? The United States.
Oh, no.
Let's talk about the FTC, everybody. This is another interesting little bit of litigation that's being leveled against game console manufacturers. And it goes along the sort of theme of right to repair, which is something that I like talking about a lot. And there's just been a couple of interesting stories over the past year and a half about that. Apparently, the FTC makes clear warranty void if removed stickers are illegal. So basically, and we reported on this, what?
A couple weeks.
Well, I feel like we reported on, like when we did our New Year's roundup, we reported on, we re-reported on the story about how there was a court ruling where right to repair was like strengthened in the U.S.
It might have been part of that.
And I think this might be the fallout from that, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically saying like, hey, all of these companies that make electronics, not just console manufacturers, but companies that make phones, all sorts of other things. You guys have maybe, I don't know if you've opened up one of your devices. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I never have, because I can never find the seam exactly. I have a lot of Mac products, all right. But
you're never getting in there.
Yeah, no. But a lot of electronics, when you open them up, there will be stickers that say like, hey, your warranty's void. Congratulations, you opened this. If you're reading the sticker, your warranty has been voided.
Hey, jackass, you can't get this fixed now.
Yeah. So the FTC is saying like, hey, you can't have those stickers because people have a right to repair stuff they have legally purchased.
Yes.
Unless, and here's the thing, provisions that tie warranty coverage to the use of particular products or services harm both consumers who pay more for them as well as small businesses who offer competing products and services. That wasn't the quote I meant to read. My bad. No,
Whoops.
now I don't know where the quote I meant to read was, but basically there was a thing that had said, hey, unless this company sells the parts to repair this device, like that you could buy from them, they can't have that sticker on their device.
Right.
And the FTC is standing by this pretty firmly, so they have they basically said, hey, all you companies that have this stuff, you have 30 days to comply. That's what the story is from.
Yes.
You have 30 days to comply. There's a warning letter. And if you failure to correct any potential violations may result in law enforcement action. So,
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so like Microsoft's offices are going to get swatted, I think, is what's going to happen.
I think that's what this means. I think this means they're going to play a game with Drake, the rapper.
Ooh. So nice. It's always nice to see that. It's always nice to see pop culture figures taking an interest in video games. But,
yes.
But no, what it really means is that the government's going to sue the shit out of these companies.
Yeah.
And again, just like in our Norway story, these companies have the money to deal with litigation, but they still
I think they'll bow to this one. I don't think they're going to fight this one.
Because the U.S. is usually so lax about stuff that when they decide they're going to go after you this aggressively, and like the language here is pretty aggressive.
It is.
If they decide they're going to go after you this aggressively, yeah, maybe you should just back off.
Yeah. Especially on something like this where, I mean, the percentages on how much they make on people rebuying consoles, I don't know how big of a percentage it would be for someone like Microsoft, selling Xboxes. I mean, there's a lot of, you can get into the conspiracy theory of, oh, well, the box, like Xbox's red ring of death more often because they want you to buy more shit from them or whatever, and that might be part of this too, but yeah, I don't think that they're going to lose a ton of money by making this small change. They're just going to snap their fingers and be like, oh, shucks, we can't juice people for a little bit more money. They'll be able to actually repair their own stuff that they own.
Or, as I've talked about in the past, mom and pop shops will be able to actually repair electronics.
Yes.
And people will be willing to bring their electronics to them because they know that it won't void the warranty.
Right, exactly.
So that's always good, and I'm really happy to see the FTC actually enforcing this precedent that was set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good for modders too. People
definitely.
that want to mod stuff.
Yeah. So,
speaking of modding yourself.
No, we have
electronics.
A story. I was going to say we have a story about Blizzard before we get to that.
Fuck, you're right. I had him out of order.
That was actually a really good segue, though.
I know.
I'm sorry.
So let's start the show over.
Let's just start. We're half an hour in. Let's just start the show over.
Yeah, we should really start the show.
So hey everybody, welcome to Don't Copy That. Let's talk about Blizzard. Blizzard apparently is is hiring. They are hiring people for, if this article loads properly, an unannounced first-person game, which seems to be moving ahead. They are looking for, let's see, a new job listing for a senior principal game designer asks for people with, quote, experience in developing weapons, abilities, and in-game systems in action or first-person shooter games. So we're finally getting Starcraft Ghost, everybody. Starcraft Ghost.
It's about damn time.
No, but we're probably getting an FPS from Blizzard, and I'm kind of interested to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah. It seems. If they're asking for, who knows how long this could be off. This
is probably a long way away.
Yeah, because it's Blizzard, and their famous quote is, "It's ready. It'll be done when it's done. It's ready when it's ready." You know, they don't really. They're one of the few companies that do not have to adhere to the standards of of actual game cycles. They can be like, "Oh, this game's just going to take 10 years. We're going to dump a bunch of money in it. Who cares? We might even cancel it." But I'm interested to see what this could be, because besides Overwatch, Blizzard hasn't made a new IP in fucking 20 years or something. It'd be interesting to see if this is going to be an offshoot of one of their existing properties, or if this is going to be something new again, if they're going to do 2 in a row that are new.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, right? Did you, what do you think? What is your money on? Do you think this is going to be a new IP or a sort of reimagining of a current IP?
I think it's going to be a reimagining or an offshoot of something that they already have. Maybe something. They say it doesn't sound like an Overwatch campaign, but for some reason, I still think it could be. Not an Overwatch campaign, but something Overwatch related. Just because it would seem Blizzard generally doesn't like to step on their own toes. Like, they have their card game, they have their RTS. They used to have 2 RTSs, but they don't make Warcraft games anymore. They have their MMO. They have their Dota game that didn't do as well as all their others, and now they have their first-person shooter game. So it'd be interesting if they're like, oh, we're gonna have another first-person shooter competitive game, and because they're gonna just be competing with themselves at that point. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is Starcraft Ghost. Who knows?
Starcraft Ghost confirmed, everybody.
Yeah.
Starcraft Ghost confirmed. Name of episode. Starcraft Ghost confirmed.
There you go.
What I think is interesting.
No, they're making Half-Life 3. They're finishing it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
that totally makes sense. It isn't really weird.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, what's interesting about this, a couple things. One, quote in this article that says, in 2016, Blizzard was advertising for a lead software engineer to build a first-person game engine for an action-oriented game that could be played across multiple platforms. So 2 things I'm getting. One from you, I don't remember what exactly you said that made me think of this, but the idea that if you can play something across, if they're making a game so that people can be competitive within that game, that's just another thing that they can build an esport around, and there is so much money in that right now. And unlike things like hero shooters or card games or Dota clones, that is not a fad. That is the sort of next the upcoming wave of the industry. That esports are just going to become a really big thing and going to be more standard and popularized. So I think the fact that Blizzard's next game is like, oh, this is a shooter, a first-person shooter, because that we can easily build an esport league around that. Totally makes sense.
Right.
Also,
they already have the infrastructure with the Overwatch League thing.
Yeah, definitely. And multiple platforms means, not only is this going to be a shooter, but it's going to be an esport, but it's also going to be accessible to everyone, because it doesn't matter what console you have, you're going to be able to play it.
Yeah, probably mobile too.
Oh yeah, maybe. So,
do you know what this is? This is going to be a battle royale game.
No, it's not going to be a battle royale game because Blizzard does not chase trends.
Oh, absolutely. That's all they do.
No, they don't. Because
they take trends and they polish them and they make them something better.
I'm sorry. Were card games big before Hearthstone came out? No.
Yes.
No.
Magic
they were not.
The fucking Gathering.
Oh, physical card games, not in the video game scene.
No, but they took Magic the Gathering. They're like, hey, let's make this accessible for people on computers and phones, and they did that.
I mean, that's different. That's not chasing a trend. Because Magic the Gathering at this point, I mean, this is not video game related discussion, but Magic the Gathering, you can't call that a trend anymore.
No, they did chase the trend with Heroes of the Storm.
Okay, Heroes of the Storm they did. I'll concede you that. But with Overwatch, that was them being like, hey, you know what people should be into? Hero shooters.
Right, yeah. No one thought that we needed another TF2, but apparently we did.
We did,
no,
yeah.
I think that they chase long-term trends, or I honestly don't think it's chasing trends. I think it's just that they have developers who really like these kind of games, and then they're like, let's take that and polish it to the point where it's something new and exciting. You know, that's basically what World of Warcraft is. It's like, we had MMOs like EverQuest and Ultima Online for a long time, and then they sort of died off, and they came in, they're like, well, you know, let's take that genre and actually make it accessible instead of being really obtuse, and it became, you know, super popular. And I feel like Overwatch is kind of the same thing for arena/hero shooters, although it was supposed to be like this big MMO thing with a whole other part of it attached. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Interesting that they're in the shooter business now, kind of first and foremost.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what kind of direction in terms of IP they take for this game.
Mm-hmm.
So
first-person Diablo shooter.
Ooh, man. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. You know what this is? This is Lost Vikings FPS.
Oh sure, it's a Lost Vikings FPS.
Duh.
Absolutely.
Duh.
Doi. It's a Blackthorn FPS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so now we got to get to our next story, but we had a really good segue for it earlier, so if you could just restate that segue.
Oh, Jesus. Speaking of modding yourself with technology, it's Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Yay, it just came a little late. Surprise! Cyberpunk 2077 will almost certainly be at E3 2018 from the dubiously named Push Square. So all this is that CD Projekt Red revealed their E3 schedule. If you don't know, CD Projekt is the developer behind The Witcher series, specifically the most recent, very excellent Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. And they will indeed be present at the event in order to show off what they call a role-playing game. Well, we wonder what that could be. It's almost 100% certainly going to be Cyberpunk, because they're a company that only really, well, they worked on Gwent alongside The Witcher, but they're a company that pretty much works on one game at a time. They're not quite big enough to be a multi-game studio. And the one that they've been working on for fucking ever is Cyberpunk 2077. I've said this before, as much as I think The Witcher 3 is a high point for open world games, and one that, you know, has not been topped yet. It can go absolutely fuck itself in terms of how excited I am for Cyberpunk 2077. Are you kidding me? Fucking finally, a high budget Cyberpunk open world game where I can just shop for mods for my cyber person. That's all I want to do. I just want to shop and buy cool mirror shades and be a street samurai. That's all I want.
Shadowrun!
Shadowrun! Yeah, well, Shadowrun's a little too weird for me. Shadowrun gets a little weird with the orcs and the shamans, the dragons owning multinational corporations. But it's still cool. Yeah, this is amazing. CD Projekt has proven themselves to be like up there with the best of the best developers, and it's been a long time. We got that one trailer from Cyberpunk in like 2012. Nothing since. So I hope that this, when they show at E3, first of all, I'm curious on whose stage it's going to be. If it's going to be on Microsoft or on Sony's stage. Yeah. I hope that's a big chunk. I hope they show off a big, meaty gameplay and cutscene chunk, and we really get to see what this game's all about, and maybe even a release date. Can we hope for a release date, Lex?
You know what? I think we can. I think that's
maybe a release window.
Release window seems more appropriate. But yeah, no, I think we're going to see some gameplay, and I think it's very exciting time to be alive this E3.
Yes. It is, because there's also, so this is really these two stories, and I'm going to move to the next one here. This is this is some real booge shit right here. This is game companies booge really cares about, or really likes, and both of them are going to be at E3. The next company that's going to be showing off its mysterious new game will be Remedy Entertainment. Apparently, they've been working on a game called Project 7 or P7, which is their 7th game that they've made. They've been working on it since Quantum Break, which is a game that was exclusive for the Xbone, and it was a weird game. It was not bad. It was really good, but it was strange. It was a game that it was like a third-person action game that was intercut with live-action TV episodes that changed depending on the choices that you made in the game. It was very strange, but it was cool because it's Remedy, and Remedy are really good writers and they're game developers. And Alan Wake's fucking amazing, and Max Payne's fucking amazing. So I can't wait to see what this game is going to be. Strangely, they are not partnered with Microsoft. They've been partnered with Microsoft for a long time, ever since Alan Wake, and apparently they've broken off that partnership, and this is going to be published by 505 Games, who has an entire lineup at E3. But I can't wait for this. Can't wait. E3 is shaping up to be a real booge-centric event.
A real booge fest.
A real booge fest, yes. Because it's just more and more shit that I particularly care about. Really, really catering to my taste. So yeah, do you have a history with Remedy? Do you like their games at all?
I totally forgot that they're the people that made Max Payne. That's super interesting. But yeah, no, I thought Alan Wake was super cool, and Quantum Break. It's funny how those
Alan Wake and Quantum Break,
they kind of go together in a weird way.
Yeah.
No, but it's I thought Quantum Break was an interesting idea, but just not something that interested me at all in terms of the IP. Contrasted very much to Alan Wake, which was an IP that I thought was like freaking awesome. So I am always excited to see what they're working on, because they are always working on something that is at least interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're a company like CD Projekt that takes their damn time and make sure to get it right, even if it's something kind of strange like Quantum Break ended up being.
Do you think that the reason why they're not working with Microsoft anymore is because Quantum Break was a disappointment for Microsoft?
Well, so that's interesting. I looked a little bit into this, and apparently, I forgot who it was. One of the executives for Microsoft for Xbox did say that Quantum Break did better than they thought it was going to. I think it just didn't have the cultural splash that I think Remedy or Microsoft expected. Like, it probably sold really well, but it just didn't stick around. It was one of those things that kind of came and went, and no one really talked about. And I think that they were kind of wanting it to be a little more culturally, have a bigger cultural footprint, and it just didn't.
You know what I hope for with Remedy's next game is that it is a smaller title. Because I feel like if we're going to compare Alan Wake and Quantum Break, that sounds so weird when you play it next to each other. If you want to compare those two games, I think Quantum Break is like the big blockbuster, right? And Alan Wake is like the cool indie horror movie. And the studio, Remedy, has proven that it's better at making the cool indie horror movie than it is at making the big blockbuster action flick.
Totally.
Or at least personal opinion, I think so. So I would love it if their next project is like a smaller scale thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that could work for them. I think that I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is an original IP. They have a history of just making new IPs, which is another thing. Another reason why I really like them and why they set themselves apart from the rest of the video game industry is that they usually just make new games. Completely new IP. Whereas that is not the rule of law for most of the video game industry.
Certainly not, no.
Yeah, so the fact that they have the clout and the leverage to be like Quantum Break is a perfect example. It's just like, we're making a big, expensive new IP with like famous actors and like the villain's fucking Littlefinger from Game of Thrones and the main character's Iceman. Like, it's very... Like, who gets to do that? But it's rare that companies can pull that stuff off. Oh, and it's also about like time travel and like weird sciencey shit. It's like no one gets to do that. So part of me wants them to keep that big budget clout that they're able to do, and make a big game. But I can also see what you're saying, that kind of making a more pulpy, smaller kind of project might be interesting as well. Maybe a change of pace for them.
So,
speaking of arresting people in China,
classic, perfect segue. Speaking of arresting people in China, people were arrested in China. So, we have talked in the past about how PUBG has a lot of cheating that goes on in it, particularly from people playing in China. And there was even a push, I think we reported on a little while ago, of people who played in other countries being like, hey, can we like have different servers for China as opposed to like the US and Europe? Because all the cheating's coming from there and we want to play a game that's fair.
Right.
So apparently PUBG Corp confirms the arrest of 15 hackers in China. They have a quote here, which is the byline of the article. We'll continue to crack down until our players are free to battle it out in a totally fair environment. So basically, earlier this year, it was reported that police picked up some 130 individuals on 30 different open cases in China, and PUBG confirmed that 15 of those arrests publisher blah 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 has formally announced that 15 arrests made by Chinese authorities had to do with PUBG, and the charges they were charged with include developing and selling hacking and cheating programs that affect PUBG, and they're not only arrested, but I assume they're facing jail time, but also there are fines, and the fines are said to be in excess of $5.1 million.
Ooh. That's a lot.
Man. That's crazy. So, here's the thing about this story. I really don't like it. I really, really, really don't like it, and it kind of freaks me out. So,
really?
So here's the thing, right? It's, on the one hand, it's good that the people who they arrested are the people making the cheating programs and not just the people who are using the programs and cheating. And also, on another hand, these people who were making the cheating programs were charging for them. So, like, should they be fined because they're making money off of the back of this other game? Yeah, I think that's fair to do.
Yeah.
But on the third hand,
oh no! On the third hand, you should go see a doctor.
Yes. On the third hand, my issue here is that they weren't actually stealing any money from PUBG Corp, and they weren't actually doing anything that horrible, and I'm worried that these people are going to be, like, in prison for a very long time.
Right.
And I'm kind of just like, that's like, you just cheated at a video game. Dude, it's a video game. Like, you shouldn't go to jail for, like, a decade for doing that.
Right. Yeah,
and to be fair, that's not what they're saying is happening. They're just saying these people have been arrested. There's probably going to be a trial, I assume, and that hasn't happened yet. And they're definitely going to be fined, and the fines are in excess of $5.1 million. But I would not be surprised if we saw people getting jail time for this in China.
Right. Yeah, the story, and I'm guessing the story at large, is missing some crucial data. Mostly, I'm guessing because China's always been, difficult to penetrate in terms of, its law and stuff. They keep pretty close to the chest when it comes to their legal system and whatnot. So who knows if maybe this is like more of a corporate lawsuit, and, the people that are just in charge of this big hacking development corporation are just going to get fined a whole bunch of money, and they're going to go on their way, close their studio down or whatever. But yeah, hopefully they don't languish in a Chinese prison for the rest of their lives or whatever, because that'd be pretty severe for for PUBG cheating.
And that's the thing, right? Like, usually when it's just a corporate thing, and there's just like, oh, we're gonna take all this money from you because we feel like you've stolen from us, and it's on the corporate level, you're not usually seeing arrests. You're usually just seing lawsuits.
Right. Yeah. It's you're getting subpoenaed.
Yeah.
And
I'm kind of like, if people are going to serve hard jail time for this, I have to, like, go, whoa, man. Like, you cheated at a video game. Nobody got hurt.
Right. No one got swatted or whatever.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's we're missing like a formal statement from like the Chinese authorities here,
Mm-hmm.
As to what actually these people. Maybe there was more. Maybe it was not just the PUBG stuff, but maybe they were selling drugs or something. I don't know. Maybe there was some other element to it that we're not seeing here.
And we've reported in the past about how games like Overwatch and a lot of the Dota clones, stuff like that, and Dota have been really, really harsh on banning people when they break the rules, and I'm all for that. I'm like, hey, if you're going to break the rules of the game, you deserve to not be able to play the game anymore. Just being sent to prison and not being able to play a game are two very different worlds.
Yes, they are very, very much so. Yeah. I'm interested to see if this develops a bit and we get maybe a little more news about why they're being tried and if they're being tried fairly. But we may not, because it's China and they're. You never know. You never know what's actually going. No one is China actually real? Maybe China's not actually a place.
All those billions of people, they're not real.
Maybe it's in our minds.
Oof. Nah.
That's probably real.
That's all our stories. We're making pretty decent time. It's just about 50 minutes in now. Let's talk about games that just came out. What games just came out? What's the date today?
May the 4th be with you.
Oh my gosh. Star Wars Day. Nerd. So
I know.
Let's see. The last couple days we had Total War Saga, Thrones of Britannia for the Windows.
Sure.
We had Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for the Nintendo Switch. And that's today. And then coming up, which I've seen so many commercials for all over the place, Conan Exiles is getting its actual release. It's coming out of early access.
Have you actually seen a lot of commercials for it?
Yes, no, I have. And
oh, really?
I'm someone who uses ad blockers heavily, and I have still seen lots of commercials for Conan Exiles. So good.
I don't even know what Conan Exiles is.
How do you not know what Conan Exiles is?
Maybe I do.
It made a big splash when it first came on early access. You could adjust how big your dong was. Which I think is a feature they have removed, unfortunately. But
that's unfortunate. Everyone just gets standard dong size.
Terrible.
Oh yeah, okay. It was this game. I thought this was just like a thing that was going to just fail.
I mean, I wasn't sure if it was one of those things like Ark that would just be in early access, like for infinity amount of time.
Yeah.
And then when it actually came out, no one would care. But their ad campaign is just pretty pushy, so I assume that people know about it. And the whole reason why it was kind of popular when it first came into early access is because people were streaming it a lot. So I assume that the only way it's going to sort of get any kind of popularity on its actual release is if a bunch of streamers say, hey, I remember streaming Exiles when it was in early access. Now that it's out, I should stream it again to see if they fixed the thing.
Yeah.
And if a bunch of streamers decide to do that and revisit it, I think it'll probably do pretty well in terms of sales. But that's coming out for Windows, PS4, and Xbone.
You like Conan? You're gonna play this?
I don't think I can run it, but I probably would if I could. My computer is very old. Fun fact. So let's see. Also, we have on the 8th, big deal game coming out.
Yeah.
Steins Gate Zero.
Oh, shit.
No, that wasn't. I was tricking you. No, I know you're excited for it. I'm excited for it. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is coming out for the Windows, the Mac, and the Linux. Even the Penguin gets to play Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire.
Yes.
And, man, I'm excited for it, but I will be getting it for Switch when it comes out on Switch.
Well, yeah, that's right. They announced that it would.
Yes,
eventually.
I think there's only a window, not a date for it. So I'm probably gonna have to wait a while. But that is likely what I'm gonna end up playing it on because I just want more stuff for my Switch, and I want to be able to play games like that on the go. Because I got Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition for iPad, and I enjoyed playing that kind of game on the go because it's with a lot of RPGs, you have to spend a lot of time on them. So just the fact that like I can go and do the things that I do throughout my day and just pick it up and play it for a little while and then put it down, I think is to that type of game very advantageous.
It is. I think those are. I actually never thought of it, but those are good bite-sized games. Because I mean, Pillars of Eternity's the first one's huge. I played it for well over 100 hours. But it plays very much. I mean, they're adventures. They're like D&D quests. You know, you go on one and then you stop, and then you go on another and stop. So yeah, that makes sense to kind of play it in little bite-sized chunks.
So that's cool.
Just like Steins Gate.
Steins Gate 0.
People like that Steins Gate. Not gonna lie.
I mean, it's a visual novel. People love the visual novels.
They do.
Let's see. On the 10th, we have Laser League, which I don't know what that is.
Is that like Rocket League?
Maybe. I think it's might be trying to make people confused who don't know that it's not Rocket League, and then they'll buy it. And then after that, I mean, we're getting into stuff we're going to be talking about next week. But yeah, that's it. We're going to end early because you got to go. I've got to go. I'm going to go watch Matt Mercer play a game. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show this week. Don't Copy That Floppy, weekly video game news podcast, live Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/DCTF podcast. If you want to follow us on social media, the place where you're going to get the updates as to when new episodes are about to happen or have come out and are available to listen to, you want to go to either our Facebook or our Twitter, and you can find us on Facebook by just searching Don't Copy That Floppy, and find us on Twitter by searching the handle @DCTF podcast. If you want to check out our show archive, there's a bunch of places to do that, but the best places to do that are either chipbit.net, who are our amazing benefactor, who host all of our stuff, really great website, where you can listen to our podcasts. There's other podcasts on there, and there's a 24/7 streaming, chiptune music on there as well. And the other place, the place you can find all the podcasts is obviously iTunes. So you can go over to iTunes and you can give us a rating and review. We'd appreciate it. So that's one great way to listen and to support the show if you want to support the show. If you want to support the show and you're thinking, wow, I just want to do more. I just have all this money. I don't know what to do with it. You can find us on Patreon by searching Don't Copy That Floppy and give us all the money so that you get access to bonus content and we get to do more stuff with the show and I get to go to conventions.
Yay, make us rich.
Make us rich, make it rain.
Give us all the wave birds for Doom.
I do. Yeah, I still need to do that. Damn. So that's everything. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, Chris, what do people have to remember?
Speaking of Don't Copy That Floppy, don't copy that floppy.